As Matthew said, I'm Scott Estes. I'm the executive director for the college here. I manage the entire IT department. And I hope y'all don't mind, I close the door because I like to get all excited and raise my voice sometimes. So I did a PowerPoint and I walked off and left it. And I didn't save it to Dropbox, so I don't have it. So I'm not going to bore you with a PowerPoint. I've got some cool toys to show you, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the things that I can remember that I had on the PowerPoint. First off, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. Okay, I've been with the college for 14 years. I started back at North Metro Technical College, and before that, though, I started exactly where you are. I was a student in the CIS program. I went through the entire program at North Metro, and they had a partnership with Georgia Highlands and got my associate's degree. But I started out exactly where all of y'all are sitting right now. I didn't know what I wanted to do. How many of you are gamers? Okay, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to get into computers to learn more about them to be a better gamer. And along that process, I realized that, this is pretty fun and I can make some money doing this. Not a lot of money, but make some money doing it. So I started out at North Metro Tech as their computer technician 14 years ago. So entry level, basic tech, doing troubleshooting, building PCs, installing software, all of the things that y'all are learning how to do now. So over the course of those 14 years, worn a lot of different hats. I went from technician to webmaster to coordinator of information technology to network administrator, database administrator, director, and now executive director. And so the domino pieces fell in just the right order for me to sort of step up in this place. I would probably say I'm sort of the non-typical employee for Chattahoochee, and probably the non-typical for the IT industry. That in most cases, to advance and get bigger and better, you have to jump from corporation to corporation to make those advancements. Again, you might get lucky and you might get into a place where there's a good, solid career path, and you know that people are going to be leaving, and it's going to give you opportunities to move up in there. And so, I just wanted to start out by saying that, I know, from sitting in that chair, I know what you're going through, I know what you've been through, I know what the future holds for you. And actually, that's the one thing I love about this job, is that from day to day, it's never the same. There's always something new to learn, there's always something cool to play with, or to figure out how to make it work. And so that's the one benefit about technology and anything related to technology, is that it's constantly evolving. There's some positions where you learn something and that's all you're going to do for the rest of your life. I can tell you right now, in IT, that's not the case. Or if that's the mentality you've got, you'll be left behind with that older technology. So again, it's always something that's evolving, and that's the one thing that I truly love about it, is that there's always something that you can get into. Just a little bit about Chattahoochee Tech and the way we're organized. So right now we're currently staffed with 18 people. We've got technicians on all the campuses. We've got 2 gentlemen that do hardware. There's a hardware coordinator and a hardware specialist. And so their primary responsibility is speccing out the computers, planning their life cycle, planning their deployment, planning their surplus when we have to send them off after they've reached their age that they're no longer of value. We've got 2 software guys, and I'm using guys in general. There are guys and gals in the department. So 2 software people, and that's all they do, is deal with software configurations, OS installs, how the systems are going to be set up, licensing revolving around the software, who has what based on the number of licenses that we've got. We've got a database programmer, or database administrator, and a programmer that handles all of our student information systems, the banner system that you get into to register and things like that. They manage and maintain that. We've got a security specialist that all he does is deal with the security cameras, access control, all of that type of stuff, even into the cabling. Our network administrator and network specialist, they deal with all the servers, all of the network infrastructure, the network switching, all of that. I think that sort of covers everybody. Just to give you a little bit of stats about the college in general as far as our technology goes, obviously we've got 8 campuses. We've got about 4,000 computers across all of those campuses. So that's a lot for us to deal with such a short staff, I should say. We're constantly on the go, and to be honest with you, we're just barely keeping our head above water most of the time. There's just so much going on and so much that we're doing that it's very hard to be proactive in some cases. In a lot of cases, it's more reactive. We're waiting for someone to submit a ticket, hey, my computer broke, or I need XYZ software, and then we're responding to those requests. There are over 100, actually there's over 250 classrooms that's both computer and lecture-based. So if you think about just an individual classroom, there's at least one computer for the instructor and a projector and all the auxiliaries that go along with that for a lecture room. Then the other, and I think there's about 130 computer classrooms which have anywhere from 5 to 35 or 40 PCs in each of those rooms that we support. 400 printers, about 50 copiers. And again, I said in all of the rooms there's a projector, so there's at least 200 and some odd projectors that we deal with. So a lot of things. There's probably on the security side, for that guy, there's over 400 cameras across all of the campuses, call boxes, alarm panels, all of that stuff that he has to deal with. So in a lot of cases we think typically, well, you're going to be in IT, you're going to be working with computers. Not necessarily. There's a lot of other things that go along with a computer that you're going to be involved with. Trying to think what else was on my slides. And I can't think right now. Anybody have any questions so far?
About routers, switches, the Cisco classes here, Windows classes here.
Okay. And so what do you?
Like, I think I understood, I heard that we had, as a campus, school, has switched from just layer 2 switches to layer 3 switches and kind of removed the number of the routers?
Correct.
Okay.
And
what was the benefit of doing that?
Do I?
What was the benefit of that?
Just faster speeds, less that we have to manage and maintain by reducing the number of switches and routers that we've got across the board. It's going to alleviate a lot of different things. What you'll find out, a lot of what you're going to deal with is all driven by dollars. Okay, how many man hours can we afford to pay you to support that, and then also how many devices or nodes can we afford to buy. So critically thinking, okay, if we changed our infrastructure, how does that impact us? Does it increase performance? Does it save us dollar amounts? Does it save us staffing amounts? So there's all things to think about. It may be an upfront cost, but what is the return on investment for doing that? And so those are the kinds of things that as you move up in your IT positions, those are things you have to think about. And to be honest with you, those are things I don't like to think about, because in my position, I don't get to touch things that much anymore. The guys don't want me to touch things. That's their job to do it. And so I'm in my office dealing with the budget, dealing with the schedules, dealing with personnel issues and things like that. And so it's when they come to me with their issues or their proposals, look, we want to do this and it's going to cost that, then I have to really look at, okay, I hear what you're saying, but now let me look at, budgets, let me look at, manpower, let me look at all this other stuff. Have we taken all that into consideration before we even move to it? So I know that was off on a tangent, but
we're also, is it primarily a Cisco shop?
Correct. We are all Cisco here. When we went, just to give you a little bit of background, when we went through the merger, Chattahoochee Tech was an Enterasys shop, and North Metro and Appalachian Tech were both Cisco shops. In the bigger scheme of things, all of TCSG, 97% of all the colleges were Cisco. There was only 3% that were Enterasys or something else. And so when we went through the merger, one of the things, again, we sort of look at is, okay, let's look at our network infrastructure. Chattahoochee is the biggest college comparatively to the other three that we merged together with. And so they've got the dollar amounts, the most amount of equipment that's going to have to be replaced if we were to replace one or the other. But to get us in line with what the other schools are doing and what the other colleges statewide are doing, you know, again, we take that evaluative step to say, okay, it's going to cost us money up front, but it's going to put us in line with all the other colleges. It's going to put us in line with North Metro and Appalachian and what they're doing and what their IT staff was familiar with and things like that. So those are just some other things to take into consideration. The other one was just desktops. It was a mixed hybrid between HP and Dell's. And in that case, we just sort of went, okay, what's the majority? A desktop price-wise, they're all about the same as far as the features and the dollar amount. So it's like, okay, majority's going to win on this one. You know, a desktop is a desktop. Whether it's HP or Dell, the insides are all about the same. You know, you always look for the Intel processor, things like that.
Windows versus Unix?
Windows versus Unix. The one thing about the Windows is the state buys all the licensing for the OS. So when we buy a PC, we buy it bare bones, just the hardware. And so once we get it in, I mean, it's got DOS on it, and that's about it. And so we load the OS based off the licenses that we have provided to the state. And again, it's not really a cost savings because it still costs us money to get it done. But on the server side of things, though, we have a little bit more flexibility. We do have some Unix-based servers, some OSs. We do have Ubuntu. We've got some Linux-based stuff. And so we've got a little bit of mix depending on what's the role of the server, what's it going to do, what's its end function going to support. And then also, what is our staff comfortable with supporting as well? So our network administrator is very versed in Ubuntu. So when we went with a new web server, that's what he put on it. And you know, it's his prerogative. He's the one that's got to support it. So probably when we redo it again, it'll change to something else because he's the only one that knows how to support it. So when he's on vacation and something happens, we're like, well, we're gonna wait for him to get back, or we call him in Florida or wherever he's at.
You go for job security.
Have job security, but it can be a hassle sometimes.
Scott, are we also heavily an Active Directory?
We are. So we're Microsoft shop based on Active Directory, Exchange, so that's all integrated together. We also use SharePoint, so your student login and our faculty and employees login, it's tied to a lot of different things. So they can use that one account to get to secured areas without even putting their password in, because it'll recognize them once they've logged in. They can get to secure areas, they can access their email, and that was another stat. So we've got about 1,200 employee accounts. We've got about 26,000 student accounts. You think, well, wow, so how come so many when there's only, if you look at enrollment, we're at about 11,000, 10,000, something like that. Well, we roll them over. So if you decide to take off for the summer semester, or you take off for a semester, we're not going to kill your account as soon as you leave. We're going to keep it in the system for at least a period of 3 to 6 months, anticipating that you're going to come back. If you don't come back at that point, then we'll kill off the account. On the AD side, just something to note, your student email is there forever. Until Microsoft wants to charge us. Right now, they're providing a service for free. So we have not, in the 4 years that we've had the live EDU accounts, we have not purged anyone. So that will stay with you if you so choose to check it after you leave from Chattahoochee. But it's pretty cool because they give you, I can't remember how many gigs worth of the OneDrive storage space, Office
It's usually like
365
15 gig.
access.
Twenty gig.
So there's a lot of features that come along with it, but you may, not going to check the email, but I'm going to access it to get the other features that are out there. The other thing that Microsoft does, hopefully, if y'all are checking your email, they're now offering the Office Suite for free. So this is not just Office 365. This is, you can download the entire version. I think the only thing that's not included is Access. Something
Like
like
Outlook or something.
No, I think Outlook's on
Outlook's
there,
on there?
and I was surprised that Outlook was, and I think Publisher's there too. But I think there was one that was like, wonder why they didn't include that one. But you can download, install it on your machine, and I think you can install it up to 5 machines, 5 Mac or 5 PC machines. So, yes.
Don't we have DreamSpark access to Microsoft products?
Actually, we don't.
You don't?
Yeah.
That we use?
Well, now through the CIS department, you have access to it that way.
Sparks to what?
To Microsoft.
He's
That allows you
actually
to-
the one in charge.
Yeah, I don't think Office Suite is part of it.
No,
I think
it's
it's
not.
like
It's probably just
an
OS
upgrade.
or
OS,
something.
yeah.
So again, that's another perk to it. The other thing I was going to talk about, the other slide, was some of the projects that we're working on. We're currently, I'm not going to say in the middle of, we're on the forefront of implementing a voice over IP phone system. It's a Cisco-based phone system. This phone system has been probably 5 years in the making as far as sort of planning it out, identifying what we need, sort of preparing budgetary-wise that we're gonna pay for this up front, and it's a large expenditure as opposed to either leasing it out or doing some kind of monthly installment payment type thing. That's coming. What it will do, it'll be tightly integrated with everyone's PCs, the employee side, so they can either use their phone on their desk or they can use a soft phone in the PC and make all their calls from the PC itself. Each of the phones will also have built-in video, so they'll be able to do video calls between one another or outside entities. It'll also tightly integrate with Microsoft Link. And Microsoft Link is basically an IM messaging program, so you can instant message back and forth. It'll also allow you to do voice calls between, video calls between, and do things like share desktop or send files back and forth between that client. So some of the other cool features that the VoIP project will allow us to do, it's basically called one number reach. And so each of the employees will be able to go in and they can set up, so when a student calls their office, they can have it rolled to their cell phone and you'd never know the difference. You're calling their office, they're picking it up on their cell phone. If they call you back from their cell phone, your caller ID is going to show their office number, not their cell phone number. The other cool feature of it is that it will allow you, I'm on my cell phone, I'm taking a call, I walk into the office, I can push a button and pick up my handset and then hang up on the cell phone, and it's a seamless transition between the two, and then vice versa. It's 5 o'clock, I'm in the office, I need to hit the road, hang on just a second, hit a button, pick it up on the cell phone, and then out the door you go. And the other person on the other end really doesn't know, other than the fact that you may say, hold on just a second, or just click it over very quickly. They would never know. So a lot of other features that were going to be introduced that I'm not even familiar with yet. This is something we're still learning. We're in the implementation phase for the back-end infrastructure, and if you can ever arrange for Ryan Dahlberg to come and present, he's our network administrator, he can get into a lot more of the technical details of it than I can, and I just sort of hear his screaming from a distance. It is a big project. It's going to take a lot of man hours to get done. And if you think about it, we're going to have to go to every office and replace every phone with a new phone. And we can't just do it one at a time. We've got to do it in a fashion that we've got to put all the new phones out, make the cutover with AT&T, and then at that point go back around and take up all the old phones, or tell everybody to throw their old phones in the trash. However we decide to do that. But,
They're pretty old.
yeah. Some of them are probably when the building was built or older.
Scott,
So-
is that infrastructure being put in place by the in-house IT staff?
Correct.
Or we're outsourcing?
Correct. So we are doing it all in-house. Some of the other colleges had outsourced it. Some of the smaller colleges that don't have the staff
Right.
or the manpower. But for us, we're doing it all in-house. We do have the TCSG, which is sort of our parent organization. They've got some network engineers that have done this multiple times. And so he's occasionally come on campus to help with some configuration issues or remote it in to help Ryan and the team out. But for the most part, we're doing it all in-house. We've sent both our network administrator and our network specialist to Cisco training for UCS training. So they've got the training from Cisco on how to implement this and how to support it and manage it. And so now they're back on staff, back on campus actually doing the implementation. So it's going to take a little bit longer. Obviously, since we're doing it in-house, there's a lot we've got to learn, but it'll be a better system in the long run as opposed to us contracting with someone to come in and set it up and then leaving it, and then we're like, God, what'd y'all do? You know, now we've got to figure it out on our own. And so if we figure it out as we go, we'll be better prepared to support it in the long run. Along with that, there's a lot of other projects that dovetail off of it. Part of the main infrastructure for the VoIP system is servers that control call manager, the voicemail system, routing the calls and all of that stuff. All of those systems, we went with a virtual approach to it. So they're all going to be virtual machines that sit on VMware. And so that's another set of classes our guys had to go to get spun up on VMware, how to manage, maintain, configure servers in the VM environment. And so we're going to have several terabytes worth of storage space where all of these VMs will reside. The other thing that we've done, and this was sort of a little overkill but insurance policy, is when we built out the system for the data center at Marietta, and how many of y'all have seen the data center at Marietta? We need to tour. We need to do a tour. So y'all get with me and we'll set that up one day. So all of the main equipment's going to be in Marietta at the data center over here, and that'll be where most of the voice components are and all of the VM stuff. Everything that we bought for here, we duplicated for North Metro. So we're going to have a redundant backup system that will be a hot failover. So if something ever happens here, one of these C-130s crashes on the building or something, yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen again. That very quickly, with a few flips of switches and a few config changes, we'll be able to start directing all the traffic and all the data and everything to that data center. So one of the other things, the key to make all that happen, is that we also need 2 internet connections. So right now, our internet connection is through the Marietta Data Center. So all of the campuses, if you think of a hub and spoke, all of the other campuses send all of their traffic back to this data center to get out to the internet or to do anything else. If you're at another campus and you send a print job, it's got to come here and then go back to the printer. So the other thing we've had to do is work with our ISP to get a secondary internet connection at North Metro. That will also require a duplicate firewall, duplicate web filtering, basically duplicate everything that we've got here. So that if something happens and the connection gets severed here, it will immediately, based on some configs that we do, it'll immediately start redirecting all the traffic that way. So hopefully we would never have an internet outage or anything like that. Knock on wood. Some of the other projects we're working on, we just received 900 new PCs that we're in the process of deploying those, and those will go out to various offices and classrooms and things like that to replace some of the older systems we've got. We're also still right in the middle, believe it or not, of upgrading to Windows 8.1. So we're probably about 50% there. We've got probably almost all of the classrooms are done. There may be 1 or 2 exceptions that there's some software that doesn't run on Windows 8.1, The real hurdle has been the offices, the faculty and the staff, because you need to be there with that person to make sure you copy all their data and you get all of their settings configured back the way it was before you even started the process. And so that takes a little bit of time, a little bit of coordinating with that individual. What's their schedule like? When do they have some free time? And you can get in there with the person and look through their system before you even start the swap out. So it's been a big undertaking, to say the least. There are some other colleges that have not even gone to Windows 8. They're like, oh, we're not going to do that. It's too much headache. We're going to stay on Windows 7, or heaven forbid, Windows Vista. And a lot of my counterparts were like, why? Why are you doing it? You know, you've got Windows 7, it works great. You know, everything that we had in the classrooms works, it's compatible with everything. Why are you going to do that? Why are you going to put your people, why are you going to put the students through that? My argument to that is we would be doing you a disservice if we didn't. Because if you graduated and that employer said, do you have Windows 8 training, Windows 8 training? No, we were on Windows 7. Why? So we put it in the classrooms, we're putting it everywhere so that it benefits you to learn it before you get out in the real world. Especially even if you go buy a PC for home, unless you have a copy of Windows 7, you're going to buy a PC, it's going to have Windows 8 on. So just makes sort of sense to sort of keep up with the trend. Again, we're a technical college, so we should be on the leading forefront of anything that is released to the general public to use. Any other questions? Anything else?
Hey,
Yes, sir.
I have a question. As far as the managerial style, is
Yes.
it more so laissez-faire or is it more so micromanaged?
I am the type of person that I don't micromanage.
Easy call.
Okay? I sit back, I tell you what to do, and then I'm going to sit back and let you do it. Now I'll say this, if it's something new, like the voice system, I may be in there with you, and I may be looking over your shoulder because I want to know. I want to know what it is. One of the things that I tell all of my people, this goes back to my history. I started out as a tech, and I've worked my way up through the ranks doing almost every position. So when you come to me with a problem, I know what you're talking about because I've been there and I've done that. And I've dealt with that problem or a similar problem. Or I've dealt with the employee that's giving you a hard time. Whatever the case may be. So again, from my managerial standpoint, sort of the backseat driver, you know, I'm telling you where to go, making sure you don't get off track, but that's about it. Okay? You know, there are some people that, you know, they want to be right there.
Is it like that in the industry? Is it more?
You know, it's going to be hit or miss everywhere you go.
Easy
I
call.
mean, you're going to have some people that, you know, especially, and I'll say that there's a difference between what we do and what some of the industry does. And by that I mean that in the industry, your what you support and what you do, there is a dollar associated with it. If you're running the technology on a manufacturing assembly line and the assembly line goes down, that's money that the company is losing because for every widget that doesn't come off assembled at the end, they're losing money on it. And so you may have that supervisor that's right there over you saying, you know, get this done, you know, there's 10, 20, 40, 60, 80 dollars that we're missing right there. So from our standpoint, we don't have that dollar amount associated product, but we do. Because all of y'all are our product. Okay? And every one of y'all that graduates and goes out, you're not bringing money back in for us, but you're our product that in the end, when you come off the assembly line, you need to be assembled and ready to go to work and face whatever it is. And so every time that our internet's down or our computer labs aren't working, that's the mentality that I've tried to instill in my guys that look, because the internet's down, yeah, it's not a dollar figure impact, but it is. We need to get it up and we need to get the problem resolved as quickly as possible because we've got people that drive in, you drive to campus, you know, we're not paying your gas, you use your gas to get here, and when you get here, you expect everything to be working and ready to go. And so that's our philosophy to it. So again, you're going to find anywhere you go, anywhere you work, they're going to have different, philosophies, different managerial styles, and things like that. So,
I wanted to ask about like your career progression. You said you were in the shoes about 14, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So you said your progression has been kind of weird because you haven't like jumped ship to a different company.
Correct.
Who you are. I want to know, have you like furthered your education or gotten certs or things like that?
okay.
Or have you just worked your way?
No, I have. So I have continued my education. I just recently finished my master's degree, and so one of the things I did, and one of the things I would encourage all of y'all to do, is as you're going through your program, look and see what else you can incorporate in. So one of the things I did when I went through the CIS diploma program at the time. Okay, got my diploma, but then I started looking at some of the certificates and said, you know what, if I take 2 or 3 more classes, I can get this certificate. If I take a couple more, I can get another certificate. And that's still the same way?
Yep.
So when I graduated, I had a diploma in information systems, I had a certificate in local area networks, and I had a certificate in web design and development. So I came out of just right out of the gate with 3 pieces of paper. I took that and went on at the time to Georgia Highlands and got my associates in business, and I think is what they called it. And then from there, I went to DeVry to get my bachelor's and my master's degree, and that's probably where I'm going to stop for a while. I toyed with the idea of getting my doctoral degree, but I think I'm in a right place right now. You never know. I mean, the door could open, and I'll give you a prime example. So when we merged, there were 3 colleges. There were three of everybody. And so there were 3 people that were in a position to be the director for the college. Well, it boiled down to, I didn't have my bachelor's degree. I was still working on it. So I was sort of disqualified right out of the gate. And so those are the types of things that the opportunity may open, and I want to be ready when it opens. Whether it's my associate's degree, my bachelor's degree, and it really depends on what career, where you want to go, what you want to do. And it may be a progress. When I started, I didn't know that I would be up here. I didn't know where I would be, really. I knew I wanted to be doing something with computers and technology, but I really didn't know where it was going to be, and it sort of just evolved over time of where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. I've got my sights set a little bit higher outside of IT, but I still will always have my hands in IT. But yeah, I would encourage all of you, don't stop. Even if you go and just take some professional development courses or anything that revolves around what you're interested in, continue to do that. There's a number of places. I would highly encourage to get the sheet of paper that says associates, bachelor's, master's, however far you want to go with it. But even if you don't want to do that, there's a lot of training centers where you can go. You can even come back here, get a certificate in Cisco, whatever the case may be. Go to somewhere else and get, there's a lot of places local in Atlanta, Global Knowledge. I don't want to tell you to go. I want you to stay here and do everything here. But once you get done, you want to continue to learn. Again, that's the key thing, is if once you graduate, you say, I know it, this is what I'm going to do, you're going to get left behind if you don't continue. Even if you do it on your own, go buy some books and research and read and do it on your own, but you need to continue to evolve your educational skills.
Those private places' advantage to them is they'll teach you something in a week or 2, but their disadvantage is they'll charge you big bucks to do it. You'll find that a lot of things that they teach are the same things that we teach, but we teach it in a semester as opposed to a week or 2, and we charge a heck of a lot less money than that.
Yeah. A good example. So I did go to Global Knowledge to do the CCNA training, which is Cisco Certified Network
Associates.
And so it was a 5-day cram course. Well, on that Friday when I left, do you think I knew or remembered any of that stuff? No. The other thing I'll say is that hands-on approach is the best way to learn. You know, I could sit there and read a book all day, and then I could go and take a test and pass it, and get a sheet of paper that says, you know, I'm a CCNA. But then, if I were to go and try to get a job, and they're like, oh man, you got your CCNA, we're going to hire you. We need you to go take care of this problem. I'd be like, oh, man, I don't know what I'm doing. So hands-on is in my philosophy, the best way to learn. It's good to go do that, but if you're going to go do that, make sure you go back and reinforce it with some hands-on stuff. You know, even if you do it in your own house, go buy a couple of old computers. You know, you can pick up Cisco switches off of eBay or anywhere, and just to try to learn, network them together, set up a server, set up AD. You know, try logging in, logging off, set permissions, global policies, all of that stuff. You know, and I think that's probably what any one of us did at one time or another, is had, you know, 4 or 5 computers in our home, had them all networked together, you had to log on, and, you know, then lock your kids out, and things like that. Anything else?
Scott, what are some of the critical characteristics you look for if you were hiring in those jobs that you had discussed up to this point?
You know, I'm just the first thing I look for is obviously your resume. But the first thing I look for really is the cover letter. Are there any misspellings? You know, is it formatted correctly? You know, did you use all capital letters? Has it got proper punctuation? I mean, that's the first thing. And if you think about any employer, that's the first thing they see. And a lot of times, and I hate to say it, but a lot of times they base their decision off of that one sheet of paper. And so typically I can tell, and I've gone through a number of hiring of people to know this, I can typically tell those people that their cover letter, it's not formatted, they didn't have a header at the top, there were some misspellings or things like that. Typically in the interview process, it was like, yep, okay, I just sort of confirmed that part of it. And so the first thing I would say is make sure that your resume and your cover letter is not dead gorgeous. You know, do it up, give it to someone else, give it to your instructors. You know, look at this. What do I need to change? Go to career services. Get them to look at it. To give you advice on what to add, what to take away. Get someone to proofread it. You know, get someone in your family, next door neighbor, your schoolmates. You know, read this. See if I got any misspellings there. How am I on punctuation? It's because that sheet of paper, it's really got to sell you as a person. You know, unless you get lucky and you're at a conference and you meet them face to face and you can make the sale right there, or they'll remember you. Yeah, I remember meeting this guy or gal before, and I think they would work well. But in a lot of cases, you don't have the opportunity to meet that person face to face, especially the people that you're sending your resume to. And just like in this case, you know, I meet guys and gals all the time, whether it's in the hallway, through our intern program. And so I know you, but if you were to apply for a job, you're not sending your resume to me. You're sending it to HR, and someone else is potentially going to be screening those before I even get to see them. So you need to make sure that even though I know you and I know you're a good guy or a good gal, you got to sell yourself to someone else that potentially doesn't know you. Some of the other things is just be honest. Don't put a whole bunch of fluff on your resume or talk about things that you truly don't have any experience in. Just be honest about it. It's okay to say, I don't know it, because I'm going to tell you, I don't know it all either. You know, if you tell someone, yeah, I know how to do that. You know, I've got my CCNA, I've got my A+, I got my Net+, I got all of this stuff. First of all, they may say, well, let me see your certs. You know, and may put you on the spot. Or more importantly, they may send you out to do a job, and you get out there and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, and so just be honest. When you go in there, and you know, the one thing we all don't want to do is when you're in an interview and they ask you a question, say, you know, I don't know that. But that goes a long way because it shows them that, you know what, you're honest enough to say that you didn't know it, as opposed to just making up some kind of, BS stuff about it. And again, you might pull the wool over the interview committee. Oh, he knows what he's talking about, or she sounds really great, man. She looks good on paper, looks good in the interview. Let's hire them. And then when you get on staff, you're like, I don't really know what I'm doing, So just be honest. I mean, that's, it's, how many of us have kids? We were all kids at one point with our parents. That's what our parents want. That's what we want of our kids. Just be honest. Just be honest with your bosses. Just be honest with your coworkers. And that's what we're all about. In my team, is we're a team. And so if I don't know it, then I'm going to go to someone else. And if they don't know it, then we're both going to go to someone else until we find someone that either knows it, or if we can't find anyone that knows it, well, Google is our friend, first of all. But we'll get together and say, okay, we've asked around, no one knows how to do this, or it's a new technology. Well, let's research it. Let's figure it out. Can we buy a book that tells us how to do it? Is there someone that we can hire to come in and consult for us, to tell us how to do it, and help us out and look over our shoulder and tell us? So, honesty, grammar, dress the part too. You go for an interview, you want to look business casual. Depending on where it's at, you may want to wear a suit and tie. Business casual is usually a safe bet. You don't want to go in with, holes in your jeans, or, a shirt that says, "No, I will not fix your computer," something like that. So, anyway, what else?
Any words of wisdom for people who have very little experience in IT, or maybe are transitioning from one field into IT?
Just try to immerse yourself into it. Pick something that you want to learn about, and just get in there and learn as much as you can about it. Okay. In some cases, it could be a good thing. You're coming into it with potentially your knowledge of the technology realm is not tainted by someone else, and so you may be coming into it with a fresh view on how to do something. So, don't think of it as, I'm new, I don't know anything. We were all there. At one point in time, we all started not knowing anything, how to turn the computer on. I mean, it was a learning experience for everybody, at least once, to figure out where's the button now. So don't let that be a hindrance to you. As far as words of wisdom, again, is just get in there and be passionate about it, especially if you want to make a career out of it. Just get in there, try to learn as much as you can. I would almost say too, until you figure out where you want to go, don't put blinders on and say, I'm just going to focus on web, or I'm going to focus on Cisco, or I'm going to focus on software installation or hardware. Cover all of it. And part of the beauty of the CIS program is through your courses, you're going to touch on all of this stuff at least a little bit. And then you can determine, okay, I really like networking. Well, let me get into the Cisco stuff. Or let me get into web design. Or I really like working with the software and with media, so maybe I want to go into digital media or digital marketing, that type of thing. So until you sort of figure out where you go, sort of keep an open mind. The other thing, and sort of goes against probably what everybody preaches, is I always tell everybody, it's better to know a little bit about a lot of different things than to know a lot about one thing. Because there's so many other things around you that could be either opportunities, or more importantly, when you'll find out in IT, is that everything connects together. So even though you know this about the software, you need to know the hardware behind it, you need to know the networking behind it, you need to know the internet out there. And so even though you may just be, I'm going to be software, a graphic designer, you still need to understand processor speed, memory, hard drive requirements, how fast is my bandwidth between me and the server, if I'm going to upload this to some website. You need to know all of that stuff anyway. So just be mindful as you're learning that you want to pick up all of these little pieces for the different areas that, even though you may not be supporting them, you need to understand how they work and how they interoperate together. So, what else?
What are your thoughts on the overall IT industry in terms of where you think it's headed? If you think there are particular areas out there that are really hot areas?
There are, and I'm going to show some of them.
Okay.
But the one thing about the IT industry, and this is the thing to keep in mind, is that it's not the computer on our desk that is so much the future. It's what we can do with it that's the future. Whether it's 10 years ago, this wouldn't have been even an idea. Well, it would have been an idea, but someone would have said, "You can't do that. You can't make a phone that small, even though it's pretty big." You can't do that. We all had the flip phones. Before that, we had the bag phone. Before that, we didn't even have a mobile phone. And so, the other thing I would say to do is continually look at what there's a couple of websites you can follow just to sort of get trends on what either, these IT columnists are speculating or what the industry's trying to develop and patent. Apple's had a patent for the phone or for the watch for a long time. And so you knew it was coming before they even announced it. And when everybody heard that, everybody else jumped on the bandwagon. And a lot of them jumped a lot faster. Samsung and all those, they went ahead and developed something and got it out to the market before Apple even did. And so if you follow a couple of these threads to sort of figure out where's the industry going as we progress, and I read a thing today where they're talking about where we're going to be in the next 5 years. The next 5 years, it's not going to be a phone, it's not going to be on your wrist, it's going to be right here. You just tap a little thing, just like Star Trek, you just tap it, and you talk. We've already got the little ear things, but those aren't that cool looking. And so having something, even if it's incorporated into your name badge, you just tap it. Hey, coming home, pick up some milk. That type of thing. But it's going to be something that, just like the telephone. When you pick up the telephone, you expect to hear a dial tone. Okay, it just should seamlessly work. You shouldn't have to give any thought process into it. And so just like the phone, I've got to pick it up, I've got to turn it on or wake it up or unlock it, I've got to dial my number, or I've got to go to my contacts and scroll and find the one I want and press a button, let it dial, and then do my conversation. But to make it more seamlessly, in whatever it is, I'm using the phone as an example, but just using the computer, using anything, the more seamless is where it's going to come in, to where I could just tap something, or like now you can just go, "Hey Siri," and it'll wake up and ask you a question, or you can ask it a question. It'll be that seamless where we can say, "Call home," or "Call my girlfriend," "Call my kids," "Call whatever," or call them by their name, and it knows, and it just dials, and there's no thought process. And I hate to say this, but we as a society, I think, and I hate to see what our kids' will be like, but they're not going to have to think at all. They're not even going to have to go to school. I was really surprised when I learned that they're not even teaching cursive writing in school anymore. I'm like, wow. Like, before long, we don't need to send them to school. Just put them on YouTube all day long and let them learn what they need to, because it will be so seamlessly that, I don't need to know all of this complex thing. And back many, many moons ago, one of the reasons I wanted to learn computers, there's a few of you that might know this, but when you played video games on computers, you installed it, then you had to configure the sound card to play. Whether it was 8 bits or 16 bits, and then you may have to go in and make some changes to the video card to make sure it displayed well. And so there was a lot of hardware behind the scenes that you had to configure to make the game work. Now, you just stick the disc in and go, or download it from the internet. There's no thought process behind it. You just click it and do it. Especially these on the phones, you just click. There's no thought process on how it works in the back end. what the hardware is doing to make it work. So, what else? How are we doing on time? Do I have?
5, 6.
What time's it over?
6.
6. Golly. Okay, so real quick,
You can go with both.
we'll talk about some cool things. Maybe it'll be worth the while to stick around for a little bit longer. So I brought 2 things here. One is, this is called a double robot. And let's see if I can get it to work for me here. So what the double robot allows me to do is be in 2 places at once. And so I could have had this set up down here, and I could have stayed at home or at Marietta, or at North Metro.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was.
And so now I can be back here. Let's get this. He's a stylish guy.
It's the dreads.
So now I can also move him. And so I don't have to be in that physical location anymore to attend a meeting or potentially go to work or go to school. One of the implements that they're using this for, I know in elementary school everybody learned this. In Alaska, the population is so spread out that they have one teacher that flies from one school to the next school in an airplane. And she's at this school on Mondays, this school on Tuesday, this school on Wednesday, and she goes around, or he does. So they're just buying these. And so instead of her having to fly, she can connect in remotely. And so right now it's using Wi-Fi. They're also cellular capable. Both. It's basically just an iPad at the top here. And so across the cellular network, I can connect to it. I can drive it around. I can see the other person on the other end, and they can see me as well. I can.
Yeah.
We're all set.
I got a question.
But anyway, cool technology. Yes, sir.
How's this sounding?
So it uses the microphone and the speaker that's in the iPad.
No, I mean like to hear you.
Same
Leave the
way.
room and try it.
Same way.
So like if you're not in the room, we can hear you.
You would. Now I'll say this, that the speakers on the iPad are not that great. What would really be ideal for a scenario like this is to have just like a Bluetooth speaker that's attached down here that would just give you a little bit more volume.
Okay.
So if you're in a meeting with maybe 5 or 6 people, it would be great just the way it is. But in an environment like this, it'd be very hard to hear the speakers on here. And we tried that at we do an all faculty and staff gathering up at Appalachian, and we had a guy driving this around. It was very hard to hear him, but there was 900 people in the room too. If it was in a small group setting, audio, video quality would be right there. So, but again, it's just cool technology. It's using some technology that we've already got. It's just saying, you know what, we could plug some wheels into the bottom of this thing and be able to drive it around. So it even comes up with a little map, so when you connect in, if you had multiple robots, it would show you on the map where they're at, and you just click to connect in. So again, sort of cool technology. I'll put them over here. So the other cool technology, I'm sure everybody has heard about these or seen them. Just set over here. So we're actually teaching a course on drones.
Oh, cool.
So we're using a little small DJI quadcopter. It's got a GoPro camera on the bottom.
Yeah.
Right? It has, and if you stick around after this, I won't keep everybody, but if you'll stick around, I'll set it up and show you how it all works. But it's got a video transmitter on the copter itself. So as you're flying, it takes the video feed from the GoPro and it sends it back to a monitor. And so we can sit on the ground and we can see exactly what the quadcopter sees from up in the air. So it's something that's cool. It's something that's taking existing technology but sort of merging it all together. RC flying has been around for years. RC flying has been around before modern commercial aviation has been. But they're basically taking those principles, all right, strapping a camera to it, strapping a small video transmitter to it, sending the signal back, and then you can do a lot of different things with it. Obviously, this is set up to do video, so you can record, you can shoot stills. And so if any of you watch the Discovery Channel, the History Channel, Science Channel, any of those channels, I guarantee if you go home tonight and you turn the TV on, you're going to see some kind of footage that came from one of these.
Hey, Scott, what's the ratio on it? Like, how far is, I guess, the beam or whatnot?
Well, so I can tell you this, I can go further than the batteries will carry, really.
Oh, shit.
So now this is the colleges. I've got one myself.
You ain't playing.
I probably shouldn't even tell all y'all this, but so I can go. It'll go over a mile away.
Easy call.
It'll go over a mile away. And I can tell you this: when you get about 100 yards away, you can't even see this anymore. It's just a speck in the sky. And so that's really where the monitor and stuff comes in handy to be able to see where the quadcopter's at and what it's looking at.
Well, does it have an autopilot to get it back? Like,
It does have an autopilot. So, and again, all of this stuff is really made possible by the cell phone. Because everything that's in this phone is in here. It's got GPS built into it. It's got a compass built into it. It's got an accelerometer built into it, so it knows when it's level. It's got, again, with a GPS, it knows where it's at in space and time. And so if I let go of the controls, it's just going to sit there and hover. It's not going to do anything else.
Yeah, that's hard.
I can also, not with this particular one, but I can control it from my iPad. And so I can program a pre-programmed flight, and I can tell it I want it to go here, 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 and here. And I want it to be at 100 feet, 75 feet, 200 feet. And I can hit go, and it will take off, it will fly, and it will come back and land without me doing anything other than programming it on the... So it's really cool. I'll say this, that this technology is so fast moving and it's so new that the government is having a hard time figuring out how to regulate it and trying to incorporate it into the national airspace, because you can fly up high enough to hit a real airplane.
What you up to, 10,000 feet? 20?
Not with this one, but with others you could.
Yeah.
But depending on how close you are to the airport, if you were just a mile away, as they come in on their approach, they're not that high. So, again, cool technology. That's what I love about it. And it's always changing. I mean, 6 months, this one will be obsolete. It'll be something newer and better and faster.
Smaller, probably.
And smaller. I mean, they already make some that are really small. And a lot of it was initially developed in the military, but it's all consumer grade now. I mean, you can go to the hobby store tonight and buy them. Really.
How much
And-
does it cost?
So this setup all together with everything, and that's monitor, camera, all of that good stuff, was about $2,400. So you can buy just the copter alone for about $500. So good Christmas present. But to do the other things with it, to add the camera, to add the video transmitter, to add the monitor, it does add up. But I will say this: if I were sitting there today, this is what I'd be getting into, because I can tell you right now, the flight controller that's in here. All right, do a little research. Commercial pilots. The only time that they're flying the plane with their hands on the stick is when they're taking off and when they're landing. And that's only really because the FAA says they have to. Once they get up in the air, they push the autopilot button and it's on its own. It's already got the route pre-programmed. It knows what altitude, it knows where it needs to go. And that's the same thing we're doing in here. And I can tell you that in the future, maybe not the commercial lines, but UPS, DHL, all of those that do deliveries and stuff with full-size aircraft, I bet you'll all be automated. The other thing I can guarantee you, the same technology that's in here, and this goes back to the Star Trek and Star Wars and the Jetsons, right? And we've already seen this with Google driverless cars. Very soon, you'll be able to get in your car and say, please take me to McDonald's. And it will start up and it will drive you to wherever you wanted to go without you touching anything. Because the technology's there. And it's only going to get incorporated into more and more things. And so again, if I was sitting in your seat, and that's really why I'm doing it now. I mean, the program that the college is teaching, it's a non-credit course, but I'm basically spearheading it. So we do hope eventually to turn that into a credit course. So when you get done with your CIS degrees, you can come back and get one in unmanned aerial systems or unmanned vehicles. So it's pretty cool stuff, both of these things. All right, any other questions? If y'all want to stick around, I'll power it all up and show you exactly what to do. I'm not going to fly it in here, but and I'm not going to fly it outside because Lockheed comes right overhead. So I know. I tell you what, if you want to come to, you get with me. You can come to Ackworth and campus up there, and I'll show you how it goes.
Today?
Not today.
You guys all signed in for my class? Right, where's the sign-in sheet?
There's a sign-in sheet up here.
Yeah, that was for the aitp science sheet too.
No, it's okay, it's okay. I'll tell you later.
That's all I got. I hope it was beneficial.
Yes.
Good, thank you.